Well, this is the area that we don't put up racks because we want to leave this open. A lot of our distribution is fresh produce. Out here you can see strawberries, cabbage. I think those are boxes of tomatoes over there. We can walk over and see what just came in the blue boxes. But because they're fresh produce, they need to move in and out of the building quickly. So sometimes things move in and never end up in a rack or in the cooler. They'll simply come in, sit here for an hour or two, and be retasked and back into another truck to be delivered out to one of our pantries.
This is such a huge building. I mean, this kind of reminds me of Costco.
It does. But when you think about 1 in 5 San Franciscans needing food assistance, we're actually not big enough. We should be a lot bigger if we're an important source of food for that many people.
So I am seeing a lot of produce. Is this common for food banks across the country?
No, it's rare for food banks across the country. We started something here about 10 years ago, which brought fresh produce into the food bank. For many years, and we were among those food banks, we were afraid of produce, that boy, if we got a truckload of cabbage, what if nobody will take it? We'll be stuck with a truckload of cabbage that we have to throw away, and it'll cost about $3,000 or $4,000 in dump bills. Well, we took the plunge, and we developed a pantry network here in San Francisco where we know we have clients coming every week who want fresh produce. And we don't ask them, do you want cabbage this week? Do you want strawberries this week? We take out 7 or 8 or 9 different kinds of produce and let them choose farmers market style what they want. And we never end up with situations where people don't want fresh produce. So we were living with this fear all along that fresh produce would be something too difficult to handle. And as it turns out, the system we've developed means that we can literally bring in almost as much fresh produce as we can get and have it distributed. We started that program here in San Francisco 10 years ago. We've turned it over to the State Association of Food Bank, and they've named it Farm to Family, so that food banks all around the state of California can get the same kind of produce that we do. And we have cans too. You can see the Domani cans over there. And you know, everybody's got that stuff in their cupboard, and we use it at the right time of year, and there's nothing wrong with it. We're really excited about fresh because it's actually cheaper for us, honestly.
Well,
you know,
it's so much healthier for people.
It is. It is. We started buying bread. For many years, we've got a lot of donations of bread, but it tends to be the boutique-y kind of bread that we see in the stores. You know, that's kind of a one-day kind of thing. They pull it off the shelf at the end of the night because it really was fresh for one day. And that's okay, but you know, for seniors and kids, it's not such an interesting thing. So we got a special deal with the bakery that they bake exclusive, one bake they call it, just for us, and it's a very low price, and we're able to offer a consistent whole wheat bread at all of our distributions. So there is more of a purchase element, and that's changed our dynamic some. I mentioned earlier that most of our food is donated, and it still is, but for the first time in the last few years, we have about 8 or 9% of our budget goes towards purchasing food to kind of round out the donations that we get.
Yeah, I always wondered when I go to a restaurant, or I remember I was in the cellar of Macy's where they have all those restaurants, and one of the bread companies, they were just throwing away bread. And I wondered, why can't they give that to a shelter?
Yeah, they can. There really is more of that kind of bread out there than anybody wants. You know, even a shelter like or a soup kitchen would prefer to have, you know, the kind of bread I just pointed out, the nice whole wheat sliced bread. It's easier for clients. It doesn't take the you know, if you have to have volunteers cutting up bread, and you're a tiny kitchen like St. Anthony's who's really struggling to get those 3,000 meals out there, it's just one more thing you have to do. One more thing you have to do. You know, if you just put, you know, broccoli or cauliflower or apples or oranges just out on a table, it doesn't feel very good. But if you make it look like a farmer's market, people really feel respected and honored and like they're at the Ferry Plaza or something like that. So for the cost of a galvanized bucket that gets used for years, you know, we turn it into something that's nice for people. And that's not a bad thing. That's not a bad thing. So they have a tablecloth, the galvanized bins, the site, whether it's a church or a nonprofit organization, will provide the tables and the volunteers. And within 2.5 hours, we'll distribute thousands of pounds of food within a few blocks of where people live. So they're able to get the food they need. Putting that personal face on what feels like kind of an industrial movement of produce. If you're a low-income person and you have a limited budget and you walk into a grocery store, you do not go to the produce aisle. On a dollar per calorie basis, it's the worst buy in the store. But we know from what physicians tell us about the issues of obesity that that's exactly where people should be going. So there's a disconnect there. What we're able to do through our pantry network, 200 pantries here in San Francisco and Marin counties, we're able to provide fresh produce for people so that if they have dollars to spend in the store, they can go in and buy other things that complement the fresh produce. For example, if we don't have protein that day, they can go in and purchase a protein item to serve with cabbage or tomatoes or whatever else they've gotten at the food bank that day. So we're filling in that produce gap.
So, and then on these aisles, you've got juices, there's bananas down there.
Bananas, we actually purchase our bananas because there's no local growers of bananas, but it's such a great product for children. And we provide, besides having pantries in schools, we also provide food for snacks. We've discovered that a lot of teachers don't have snacks for children, and the children can't afford to bring in the snacks themselves. So we've been purchasing things like granola bars and bananas that are really easy to serve. We have oranges all during the winter time, and parent volunteers will cut up the oranges and serve them at recess. So we have a snack program for low-income kids. We're delivering, I think, to about 32 schools now here in San Francisco.
Yeah, I have some teacher friends who have to bring fruit to school because the kids come in hungry, and they're buying it with their own money.
That's the story we see over and over again, and we shouldn't expect teachers to provide snacks for kids. We should expect teachers to come in and have kids that are prepared to learn and to provide those lessons, but not to feed kids.
So you've got volunteers. There's so many people walking around right now, volunteers who put the food together to then be shipped out to various organizations?
Out to other organizations and out to our pantry network. We had 22,000 volunteers here last year. It's the equivalent of about 50 full-time people, so we really rely on volunteers. We're open on weekends, we're open on evenings, so people can come in, even if they have a full-time job, and help us out, and they do.
So, Paul, what are your thoughts on where we're going from here? As we have an incredibly high, the highest poverty rate in, gosh, I think it's 6 decades. 1 in 8 people in this country are living in poverty. 1 in 4 children don't have enough to eat. What are your expectations about where we're going from here?
Well, it's a really good question, and I have some things I'm worried about and things that I think are real opportunities. What worries me when I keep hearing economists talk about a jobless recovery, and maybe I heard an economist say the other day, we may never get back to unemployment at the low level that we've seen it at times in the past couple decades. That is very concerning. This development of a permanent underclass is very concerning. I don't know that we want to be getting bigger and bigger and bigger. I think we want to try to have a society where people are paid enough that if they have a full-time job, that they can feed their families. So those are some of the concerns that we have. I do think there's an opportunity because of the tight budgets in California and in the United States to make some of our government programs more efficient. I mentioned earlier that the food stamp program in California has the highest per case administrative costs in the nation. We can do better. We can do better than that in California. The solutions are not that difficult. And maybe if there's a silver lining to tight budgets is that we will squeeze out the inefficiencies and get rid of some of the barriers to these programs.
Well, let's hope now that Newt Gingrich is talking about food stamps, let's hope reporters actually do their job and instead of just repeating the rhetoric, actually maybe go to a food bank to find out how this program works.
Well, you know, the trouble with the sloganeering is it demonizes programs.
Exactly.
I'd like to see Newt Gingrich and whoever his counterpart is roll up their sleeves and figure out how to make the program more efficient. They tend to talk at such a high level that the good ideas that are out there never get debated, never get discussed. Because the Congress and even happens in Sacramento, that it's so important to have that media soundbite that they want that they never really talk about ideas.
Well, Paul, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Paul Ash is Executive Director of the San Francisco Food Bank. Thank you.